I need to tell someone what happened that weekend. I have told the police, obviously, but they look at me a certain way now, like they are not sure what to believe. I am not sure I believe it either, and I was there. My name is Marcus Chen. I am 34 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I lived in a house on Ridley Drive in Ashford, Connecticut. It was a nice house, 3 bedrooms, finished basement, a backyard that backed up to about 2 acres of woods. My wife Sarah and I bought it 4 years ago, right before our daughter Lily was born. We thought we would raise a family there. We thought a lot of things. Sarah took Lily to visit her mother in Vermont that weekend. Her mom had just had hip replacement surgery, and Sarah wanted to help out for a few days. I was supposed to go, but I had a deadline at work. I designed packaging for a pharmaceutical company, which sounds boring because it is boring, but it pays well, and the deadline was real. So I stayed behind. I kissed my wife and my daughter goodbye on Thursday morning, watched them pull out of the driveway in our Subaru, and went back inside to make another pot of coffee. I worked from home that Thursday and Friday. It was quiet in a good way at first. I ate cereal for dinner and watched basketball and fell asleep on the couch. Normal bachelor weekend stuff. Sarah called Friday night and I talked to Lily for a few minutes. She told me about Grandma's cat and how it did not like her, which was true. That cat was mean. I told her I loved her and that I would see her Sunday night. On Saturday, I woke up around 9. The house was cold. We had one of those smart thermostats, and I figured the schedule was off since nobody was supposed to be home much that weekend. I got up, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table checking emails on my laptop. Outside it was gray and drizzling. The trees behind the house looked black against the sky. I spent most of the day working. Around 4 in the afternoon, I realized I had not eaten anything except a granola bar, so I ordered Chinese food. The delivery guy came around 5. Young kid, maybe 19. He handed me the bag, and I gave him a cash tip, because the app tips never seemed to go to the drivers anyway. He said thanks, and jogged back to his car through the rain. I ate General Tso's chicken at my desk while finishing up a label design. By 7, I was done. I saved everything, closed my laptop, and went to the living room to watch TV. The rain had picked up. I could hear it hitting the windows, that tapping sound that is supposed to be soothing, but just made me feel more alone in the house. Around 9:30, the power went out. This was not unusual for our neighborhood. The infrastructure was old, and any time there was a storm, we would lose power for an hour or 2. I had flashlights in the kitchen drawer and candles in the hall closet. I got up, felt my way to the kitchen, and found the flashlight. The beam was weak, the batteries half dead, but it was enough. I texted Sarah to let her know the power was out. She texted back a frowny face and said she hoped it came back soon. I told her I would be fine, that I was going to bed early anyway. I lit a few candles in the living room and sat there in the flickering light, listening to the rain. The house made noises it did not make during the day. Settling sounds, creaks, the kind of thing you stop noticing when you live somewhere long enough. But that night I noticed all of them. Around 10, I heard something outside. It was hard to describe. Not a crash or a bang, just a sound that did not fit, like something heavy being set down on the back porch. I told myself it was probably a branch falling or a raccoon knocking over the garbage can. We had raccoons. They were always getting into things. I went to the back door and shone my weak flashlight through the glass. The porch was empty. The rain was coming down hard, and beyond the porch light's usual reach was just darkness. I could not see the tree line, could not see anything past the first few feet of wet grass. I stood there for a minute, watching. Nothing moved. I locked the back door, which I should have done already, and went around the house checking all the other locks. Front door, side door to the garage, all the windows on the first floor. Everything was secure. I went upstairs and got into bed with my phone. I scrolled for a while, not really looking at anything, just waiting for the power to come back. It did not. Eventually, I plugged in my phone to the portable charger on my nightstand and tried to sleep. I do not know what time it was when I woke up. It was still dark, still raining. My phone said it had been a couple hours. The house was quiet except for the rain and those settling sounds. Then I heard footsteps. They were downstairs, slow and deliberate, like someone walking through the living room. I lay there, completely still, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I told myself I was imagining it. The house was old. Old houses made noises. But then I heard the creak of the third step on the staircase. I knew that creak. I had been meaning to fix it for 2 years. It only made that sound when you stepped on it a certain way, when you put your full weight on it. Someone was coming up the stairs. I grabbed my phone and slid out of bed as quietly as I could. The master bedroom had a bathroom attached, and the bathroom had a lock on the door. I moved toward it, trying not to make the floorboards creak, trying not to breathe. Another creak. Halfway up the stairs now. I made it to the bathroom and eased the door closed behind me. I turned the lock slowly, feeling the bolts slide into place. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I could call 911. I should call 911. But what if I was wrong? What if it was nothing, just the house settling, just my imagination running wild in the dark? The police would come out, find nothing, and I would be the guy who called 911 because he got scared alone in his own house. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs. I pressed myself against the bathroom wall, as far from the door as I could get. The footsteps came down the hall, slow, patient. They stopped outside the master bedroom. I heard the bedroom door open. Through the gap under the bathroom door, I could see darkness. Then a faint light appeared, a flashlight, moving across the bedroom floor. It swept toward the bathroom door and stopped. I stopped breathing. The flashlight held there for a long moment. Then it moved away. I heard footsteps again, but they were moving away from me, back toward the hall. I heard doors opening and closing. The guest bedroom, Lily's room, the hall closet. Whoever was in my house was looking for something, or someone. I called 911. The dispatcher picked up on the second ring. I whispered as quietly as I could that there was someone in my house, gave my address, said I was hiding in the upstairs bathroom. She told me to stay on the line, that officers were on their way. Her voice was calm and professional, and somehow that made it worse. This was routine for her. People called about intruders all the time. The footsteps came back. They stopped outside the bathroom door. I heard breathing, slow, steady breathing, just on the other side of that thin wooden door. Then a voice, a man's voice, low and conversational, like we were old friends. "I know you're in there." I did not answer. I could not answer. My throat had closed up. "The police are coming," he said. "I can hear them on your phone. That's okay. I have time." The doorknob rattled. Not hard, not like he was trying to break in, just testing it, confirming it was locked. "You have a nice house," he said. "Nice family, too. I've been watching. Your wife is pretty. Your little girl is sweet. They're not here tonight, though, are they? Just you." I found my voice. It came out cracked and barely audible. "What do you want?" He laughed. It was a normal laugh, the kind of laugh you would hear at a barbecue or a work party. That was what scared me the most. "I want to have some fun," he said. "That's all. Just some fun." I heard sirens in the distance, faint but getting closer. "Ah," he said. "There they are. I guess I should go." He paused. "But I'll be back, Marcus. I know where you live. I know where your wife's mother lives. I know where your daughter goes to preschool. We'll have our fun eventually." The footsteps moved away. I heard him go down the stairs, heard the back door open and close. Then nothing. The police arrived 5 minutes later. They searched the house and found signs of forced entry at the side door to the garage. The lock had been jimmied. They searched the woods behind the house but found no one. They took my statement, told me to call if anything else happened, and left. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the living room with every light in the house on, waiting for dawn. When the sun came up, I called Sarah and told her what happened. She wanted to come home right away, but I told her to stay. Her mom needed her. I told her the police were handling it, that I was fine, that I would get the locks changed, and maybe stay at a hotel until she got back. I did not stay at a hotel. I do not know why. Part of me thought that if I left, I would be giving him what he wanted. Part of me thought I was overreacting, that it was just some burglar who got spooked and ran. Part of me, the stupid part, thought it was over. I got the locks changed on Sunday. A locksmith came out and replaced all the exterior locks with new deadbolts. He was a big guy named Earl who talked the whole time about his boat and how he was going to take it out on the Sound as soon as the weather cleared up. I nodded along, grateful for the normalcy of it. Sarah and Lily came home Sunday night. I met them in the driveway and hugged them both longer than usual. Sarah looked worried, but I told her everything was fine. The police had come. The locks were new. It was probably just a random thing. She believed me because she wanted to believe me. Monday was normal. I went to work, came home, had dinner with my family. Lily told me about Vermont and her grandma's mean cat. Sarah talked about her mom's recovery. We watched a movie together and went to bed. That night I checked all the locks twice before going upstairs. Everything was secure. I fell asleep with my hand on my phone, ready to call 911 again. Nothing happened. Tuesday was the same. Wednesday, Thursday. By Friday, I had almost convinced myself it really was just a random break-in, that the guy's threats were just talk, that he had moved on to easier targets. Sarah had mostly stopped asking if I was okay. Things were getting back to normal. On Saturday, 1 week after the break-in, I came home from running errands to find a note on my pillow. It was handwritten on plain white paper. Neat block letters, like someone had taken their time. "Did you miss me?" I stood there staring at it for a long time. My mind was racing, trying to figure out how he got in. The locks were new. The windows were locked. The alarm system, which I had activated after the break-in, had not gone off. I searched the entire house, every room, every closet, every corner. Nothing. No sign of forced entry. No sign anyone had been there at all. Just that note on my pillow. I did not tell Sarah. I do not know why. Maybe I thought it would scare her too much. Maybe I thought I could handle it myself. Maybe I was just in denial, hoping it was some kind of sick joke, hoping it would stop if I ignored it. I installed more cameras. I bought motion sensor lights for the yard. I got a baseball bat and kept it next to the bed. I started sleeping in shifts, staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning before letting myself rest. Sarah noticed I was not sleeping. She thought it was stress from work. I let her think that. A week went by, then another. No more notes, no more break-ins, no more voices in the night. The cameras showed nothing but deer and the occasional stray cat. I started to relax a little. I started to think maybe it really was over. Then the videos started. The first one came to my work email. It was a short clip, maybe 30 seconds, shot through our kitchen window. It showed Sarah and Lily eating breakfast. Lily was laughing at something. Her whole face lit up the way it did when she was happy. Sarah was smiling at her. They looked so normal, so peaceful. The subject line was, "Having fun yet?" I went to the police again. They took the email, said they would try to trace it, told me to report anything else that came in. They suggested I send my family somewhere safe. I told them I would. That night I told Sarah everything. The note, the email, all of it. She cried. Then she got angry. Then she got scared. We decided she would take Lily back to Vermont, to her mom's place, where no one could find them. I would stay behind and work with the police to catch this guy. Sarah did not want to leave me alone. She said we should all go together, that we should sell the house and move somewhere far away. I told her that would not work, that he had already proven he knew where her mom lived, that running would just delay the inevitable. We needed to catch him. We needed to end this. She left the next morning. I watched the Subaru pull out of the driveway just like before, watched until it disappeared around the corner. Then I went back inside and locked all the doors. I worked with the police over the next few days. They traced the email to a VPN, which led nowhere. They canvassed the neighborhood, asked if anyone had seen anything suspicious. No one had. They put extra patrols on my street, but they could not be there all the time. They had other things to do, other crimes to solve. I was alone. On Thursday night, 4 days after Sarah and Lily left, I was sitting in the living room watching the camera feeds on my laptop when I saw movement. One of the cameras covered the back porch. In the greenish night vision, I could see a figure standing at the edge of the tree line. It was a man, dressed in dark clothes, standing perfectly still. He was looking at the house. I grabbed my phone and started recording the laptop screen. The figure did not move. It just stood there, watching. I called 911. I told them what I was seeing, told them to send someone right now. They said officers were on the way. The figure started walking toward the house. It moved slowly, casually, like it had all the time in the world. It crossed the yard in the rain, stepped onto the porch, and stopped directly in front of the camera. For a moment, it just stood there. Then it reached up and adjusted the camera so it pointed at the sky. I heard the back door open. The locks. The new locks. How did he keep getting through the locks? I ran upstairs to the bathroom again, locked the door, sat on the cold tile floor with my phone pressed to my ear. The 911 dispatcher was still on the line, telling me to stay calm, telling me help was coming. I heard him come up the stairs. That same slow, patient pace. That same creak on the third step. He stopped outside the bathroom door. "You know," he said, "I'm getting tired of this game." His voice was different this time, harder, less playful. "Your family is safe for now. I could have taken them any time I wanted, but that's not what this is about. This is about you and me, Marcus. This is about finishing what we started." "I don't even know who you are," I said. My voice was shaking. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to open the door. The police are coming. They always are." He sighed. "Fine. We'll do this the hard way." I heard a loud crack. The door shook. He was trying to kick it in. Another crack. The frame was splintering. I looked around the bathroom for something, anything I could use as a weapon. There was nothing, just towels and toiletries and a plunger. A third crack. The door flew open. He stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light of the bedroom. I could not see his face clearly, just his shape. Tall, broad-shouldered, holding something in his right hand. "Hello, Marcus," he said. I threw myself at him. I do not know what I was thinking. I just moved, pure animal instinct, some desperate attempt at survival. I caught him off guard and we went down together, crashing into the bedroom floor. He was strong, stronger than me. He got on top of me and pinned my arms with his knees. I could see his face now, lit by the glow of the streetlight through the window. Normal face. White guy, maybe 40, clean-shaven. He could have been anyone. A coworker, a neighbor, the guy at the grocery store. He was smiling. "That was good," he said. "I like it when they fight." He raised the thing in his hand, a knife, long and sharp, the blade catching the light. Then I heard sirens. Close this time. Very close. His smile faltered. He looked toward the window, then back at me. "Next time," he said. He hit me with the handle of the knife, right on the temple. Everything went white, then gray, then black. When I woke up, the police were there. They had found me unconscious on the bedroom floor. No sign of the intruder. He had slipped out again, vanished into the night. They searched the woods, the neighborhood, everywhere they could think of. Nothing. I went to the hospital for a mild concussion. The doctors kept me overnight for observation. Sarah called about 50 times. I told her I was okay, that I was alive, that the police were going to catch him. I do not know if I believed it. They did not catch him. The next few days were a blur. I stayed at a hotel near the hospital. The police assigned a detective to my case, a tired-looking woman named Rosario, who seemed to take it more seriously than the uniformed officers had. She interviewed me for hours, went through all my emails, all my contacts, trying to find some connection to whoever was doing this. She came up empty. Sometimes these guys are randoms, she told me. They pick a target for no reason we can understand. Wrong place, wrong time. That's supposed to make me feel better. She shrugged. It's supposed to make you realistic. We'll catch him eventually. But you need to be careful in the meantime. Stay somewhere public. Don't go back to that house alone. I did not go back to the house. I stayed at the hotel for a week, then rented an apartment on the other side of town. A small place, 1 bedroom, no yard. I told Sarah to stay in Vermont until this was over. She argued, but eventually she agreed. For a while it seemed like the move had worked. No more notes, no more emails, no more break-ins. Weeks went by with nothing. I started to think maybe he had given up, moved on to someone else. Then I came home from work one evening and found him sitting in my living room. He was on the couch, legs crossed, leafing through a magazine like he had been waiting for me. The apartment door was locked. The windows were intact. How he kept getting in was beyond me. Nice place, he said without looking up. Bit small, though. Downgrade from the house. I stood in the doorway, frozen. My phone was in my pocket, but my hands would not move. He set down the magazine and looked at me. Same face I remembered from that night. Same ordinary features. Same smile. I've been patient, he said. More patient than you deserve, but I'm running out of time. I have other things to do, other people to see, so we're going to finish this tonight. Why? It was all I could say. He stood up. Why? Because I can. Because you were there. Because I picked you out of 1,000 people and now we're connected, you and me. That's all the reason there is. He pulled out the knife. Your family isn't here, he said. Nobody is coming to help you. It's just us now. I ran. I turned and bolted down the apartment hallway toward the stairs. I could hear him behind me, his footsteps echoing in the corridor. I hit the stairwell door and took the steps 2 at a time, nearly falling, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The lobby was empty. The doorman was supposed to be there, but he was gone, probably on a break, probably never coming back. I ran for the front door. I got about 10 feet before he caught me. His hand closed on my collar and yanked me backward. I went down hard, cracking my head on the tile floor. The world spun. I felt him drag me across the lobby toward the back entrance, toward the parking garage. I tried to fight, tried to kick and claw and bite, but he was too strong. He got me to the garage and threw me against a concrete pillar. My vision was swimming, blood running down my face from where I had hit my head. That was fun, he said. One more chase. I'll miss that. He raised the knife. Then the garage door opened. A car pulled in, headlights washing over both of us. I heard a horn honk, then shouting. Someone had seen. He turned and looked at the car, then back at me. His expression did not change. Interrupted again, he said. You're the luckiest man alive, Marcus. But luck runs out. He slipped away into the shadows. By the time the driver got out of the car and came to help me, He was gone. The police found the doorman in a supply closet. His throat had been cut. He had been dead for at least an hour before I got home. His name was Raymond Ortiz. He was 62 years old. He had worked at that building for 15 years. He had a wife and 2 grown children and 4 grandchildren. He died because I moved into his building. He died because of me. Detective Rosario told me it was not my fault, that I could not have known, that the only person responsible was the man who did it. I nodded and said I understood, but I did not understand. I still do not. They moved me to a safe house, a small cabin upstate, in the middle of nowhere, with 2 officers stationed outside around the clock. Sarah and Lily stayed in Vermont. I was not allowed to visit them, not allowed to tell anyone where I was, for my safety and theirs. I was there for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of nothing but waiting, jumping at every sound, watching the news for any sign of him. There was nothing. No attacks, no sightings, no evidence he even existed. Detective Rosario came to see me once a week. She updated me on the case, which meant telling me they still had no leads. The emails had stopped. The cameras had shown nothing useful. He had disappeared as completely as if he had never existed. Maybe he moved on, she said during one visit. It happens. These guys burn out, get bored, find a new target. Maybe he's done with you. You don't believe that? She was quiet for a moment. No, she said. I don't. On the 22nd day, I got a text from an unknown number. Did you think you could hide from me? I showed the officers. They called it in. Within an hour, there were a dozen cops searching the woods around the cabin, helicopters overhead, dogs barking in the distance. They found nothing. That night, I sat in the cabin's small living room with one of the officers, a young guy named Delgado, who seemed more scared than I was. We did not talk much. There was nothing to say. Around midnight, the power went out. I felt my stomach drop. Not again. Delgado grabbed his radio and tried to reach his partner outside. Static. He tried again. Nothing. Stay here, he said and drew his weapon. He moved toward the front door. I heard the door open. I heard him step outside. Then I heard a sound like wet meat hitting concrete, and Delgado screamed. The scream cut off almost immediately. I ran to the back of the cabin, to the bedroom, to the window. It was small, but I could fit through. I climbed out and dropped into the darkness behind the cabin. The woods were black. I could not see anything, could barely see my own hand in front of my face. I ran anyway, crashing through brush and branches, not knowing where I was going, just trying to get away. Behind me, I heard the cabin door bang open. I heard his voice, calm and almost conversational. Running again, Marcus? That's okay. I like the chase. I ran faster. Branches tore at my face and arms. My lungs burned. I could not tell if the sounds behind me were him or just my own panic. Then my foot caught on something and I went down hard. I hit the ground and rolled, ending up on my back, staring at the black canopy of trees above me. He emerged from the darkness like he had been there all along, like he had been waiting for me to fall. He stood over me, the knife in his hand, that same smile on his face. End of the line, he said. I tried to get up, but my leg was wrong. twisted at a bad angle. Something was broken. He crouched down next to me, close enough that I could smell him, sweat and something metallic, probably blood. "I want you to know," he said, "that I enjoyed this. You gave me a good run, better than most. I'll remember you." "Please," I said, "please don't." He tilted his head like a dog hearing a new sound. "Please. After everything we've been through, you're going to beg? I thought you were stronger than that." I did not say anything. I could not. All I could think about was Sarah and Lily, wondering if I would ever see them again. He raised the knife. Then the flashlight hit him. It came out of nowhere, a brilliant beam cutting through the darkness. He turned toward it, startled. And in that moment I grabbed the first thing I could find, a rock about the size of my fist, and swung it at his head. It connected with a sick, solid thunk. He went down sideways, the knife falling from his hand. I grabbed it and drove it into his chest before I could think about what I was doing. He made a sound, not a scream, more like a surprised grunt. He looked down at the knife in his chest, then back at me. "Huh," he said. "Didn't see that coming." He fell backward and did not move. The flashlight came closer. It was Detective Rosario, followed by a half-dozen other officers. She had been on her way to the cabin when she heard the radio go silent. She had followed the sounds of my running through the woods. "Is that him?" she asked, shining her light on his face. I looked at him, at his ordinary face, his ordinary features, the blood pooling beneath him. He could have been anyone. "Yeah," I said. "That's him." They put me in an ambulance and took me to the hospital. My ankle was broken in 2 places. I had cuts and bruises all over my body. I spent a week in the hospital and another month in physical therapy. He died that night in the woods. The knife hit something vital, and he bled out before the paramedics could do anything. I found out later that his name was David Keller. He was 43, divorced, no kids. He worked as an electrician, which explained how he kept getting through my locks. He had no criminal record, no history of violence, nothing that would have made anyone look twice at him. The police found things at his apartment. Photos of me and my family, taken over months. Detailed notes about our routines, our schedules, everything about our lives. He had been watching us for almost a year before that first break-in, planning, waiting. They found other things too. Photos of other families, notes about other people. Detective Rosario told me they think I was not his first, that there were others who were not as lucky as me. They are still investigating. I try not to think about it. Sarah and Lily came home after I got out of the hospital. We did not go back to the house on Ridley Drive. We sold it without ever setting foot inside again. We moved to another state, another town, a place where no one knows our names or our story. Lily does not remember much of it. She was too young. She knows something bad happened, that we had to move, that Daddy got hurt. But she does not know the details. Sarah and I agreed we would tell her someday, when she is older, when she can understand. For now, she is just a happy kid starting kindergarten, making friends, living her life. Sarah has nightmares sometimes. So do I. We go to therapy, separately and together. We talk about what happened, try to make sense of it. There is no sense to be made. Sometimes bad things happen to people for no reason. Sometimes ordinary-looking men do monstrous things. There is no why, no grand explanation, no satisfying answer. I killed a man. I do not know how I feel about that. Some days I feel guilty, like I should have found another way. Other days I feel nothing at all. Most days I am just glad to be alive, glad my family is safe, glad it is over. But sometimes late at night, I hear a creak on the stairs, a footstep in the hall, a voice outside my window, and I remember that David Keller had photos of other families, notes about other people, and I wonder if I was really his only unfinished project, and I wonder who else is out there, watching, waiting, planning. And I check the locks one more time before I go to bed. I'm writing this because people keep asking what it was like, and because I'm tired of hearing the cleaned up version. The official story is simple. A woman went missing. A man killed her and several others. The police found him. He died during the arrest. Case closed. That's what people repeat at the bar and at the grocery store like it's a lesson and not a whole. What I remember isn't neat. It's a string of regular moments that turned poisonous. A coffee cup sweating on a counter. The sound of a dog barking 2 houses away. A phone that won't ring back. A man's voice saying something normal, like you shouldn't be here, in a way that makes your spine tighten. My name is Evan Rourke. I live in Alder Creek. It's a small town with a reservoir trail, a clinic, a hardware store, and the kind of quiet that makes you sloppy about doors. The place has always felt safe in a lazy way. People wave. People gossip. If your car breaks down, someone stops. Mara Ellison lived above a bakery on Main. We weren't dating. We never were. We knew each other as kids, drifted apart, and then ended up back in the same place in our late 20s. We'd get coffee sometimes. She worked at the clinic. She ran when she could. She was the type who showed up early and apologized even when she had no reason. She wasn't reckless. She didn't pick fights. She didn't do drugs. She complained about work like everyone does. But she didn't talk like someone ready to vanish. When Mara disappeared, I didn't think kidnapping or murder. I thought she'd had an accident or done something impulsive and would be embarrassed when we found her. That was my first mistake, and it's one that felt reasonable until it didn't. Her sister Dana called me that morning. We weren't close, but she knew I lived nearby, and she knew I'd been seeing Mara around town. Mara hadn't shown up for her shift. She wasn't answering her phone. Her car was still in the lot behind the building. That last part was wrong enough that I drove over. Mara's place was above the bakery, 2 flights of stairs that always smelled like sugar and butter. Her door stayed shut when I knocked. No movement inside. No sound. Her phone went to voicemail. I tried the handle out of habit even though I knew it would be locked. It was. Downstairs the bakery was busy. A couple of older women were picking through pastries like they had all day. The owner, Yvette, looked tired and annoyed at the world in general. When I told her Mara was missing, her face changed. Yvette said Mara came down the day before for a bagel, like usual. She'd mentioned she was going for a run after work. The reservoir loop. That made sense. Mara ran there when the weather was decent. It was a dirt lot, a path around the water, trees thick enough that you forgot you were close to town. I drove out on my lunch break and walked the loop alone. I wasn't part of any organized search yet. I was just a guy looking at the ground like it would point in a direction. I didn't find a body. I didn't find blood. I found trash, old cans, a torn glove, and a half-buried fast food bag that had turned into mush. I remember being annoyed at myself for taking it seriously, and then being ashamed for feeling annoyed. A deputy showed up as I got back to the lot. Older guy, sunburned face, slow movements. He took my name and said they'd check it out. The way he said it made it sound like a form he had to fill. That evening, Dana and Mara's mom arrived from out of town. I met them at the station because Dana asked me to come. The station in Alder Creek is 2 desks, a couple of holding cells in the back, a bulletin board for lost pets and local notices. It's not a place that feels ready for something like this. Detective Lyle Kerr came out to talk to us. He wasn't rude. He wasn't warm either. He looked like a man who drank too much coffee and slept in short bursts. He asked the standard questions: what Mara wore, where she ran, who she dated, whether she used drugs, whether she'd ever talked about leaving town. Dana pushed for phone records and immediate searches. Kerr kept saying they were doing what they could, but there was a delay in his voice, like everything needed to be cleared by a rulebook first. He said they'd check hospitals. Dana said she works at the clinic, she would know. Kerr said they'd check anyway. He said they'd talk to her co-workers, neighbors, friends. Dana asked about her phone. Kerr said it wasn't a criminal case yet, that adults sometimes disappear voluntarily. Dana snapped that Mara didn't. Mara's mom sat there with her hands folded too tight, whispering apologies for taking up their time. I remember watching her and thinking that something was broken in the world when a mother had to apologize for asking the police to find her child. The town found out fast. Alder Creek doesn't have much to talk about, so a missing woman turned into the only topic. Posters went up in store windows. Someone started a social media page. People began sharing Mara's picture like it was a prayer. The next morning, volunteers formed search groups. Nobody waited for permission. I showed up at the reservoir lot with Dana. Her eyes were swollen. She looked like she'd been awake all night. Not because she couldn't sleep, but because sleep felt like betrayal. Mara's mom was there too, wearing a jacket that didn't match the weather. She held a thermos she never opened. Kerr arrived with a couple of deputies and tried to take control of the crowd. He told people to stay in groups, not to wander, to report anything they found. He asked for anyone with ATVs or drones. I ended up in a group with Dana and a few locals, including Russell, a guy from the hardware store. Russell was friendly in a loud way. He kept saying, "We'll find her," like repeating it made it true. We walked the trail yelling Mara's name until it felt ridiculous. Then we went off trail, scraping our legs on brush, checking dips and clusters of trees, looking for any sign she'd been there. I remember how quiet the woods were. People assume woods are loud. Birds, insects, wind. But when you're listening for a scream that never comes, the quiet feels heavy. Near midday, a call went out over the radios. Someone had found something. Back at the lot, tape was up around a small patch of brush. Inside was a black running pouch and a water bottle. Dana recognized the pouch immediately. It was empty except for a key and some coins. No phone, no ID. The water bottle was half full with the cap loose. Kerr ordered the volunteers to go home and said it was now evidence. People stood around anyway, staring like their attention could change what the pouch meant. They brought in dogs. The handlers had that focused calm people get when they're trying not to let emotion ruin their work. The dogs sniffed the pouch and then pulled into the woods. The dogs led the handlers off the path into thicker brush and stopped near a spot where a branch had fallen. Later, Kerr told Dana they'd found Mara's left running shoe caught there. One shoe. That small detail did something to us. It turned the missing person into a physical event. You don't just lose a shoe and keep running. Dana asked Kerr how a shoe comes off like that. Kerr said it could have been pulled off, or it could have been a fall and a struggle. Dana asked if there was blood. Kerr said nothing obvious. Dana asked if they found drag marks. Kerr said the ground was too disturbed from the search to say. That answer made Dana's face harden in a way that scared me. Not because it was wrong, but because she was learning what helplessness feels like. The next few days blurred. Kerr and his deputies went to Mara's apartment. They entered with the landlord. Dana wanted to be there, but Kerr kept her out. He said it had to be handled carefully. Dana paced the apartment afterward like a trapped animal. Mara's mom sat on the couch staring at Mara's shoes lined up by the door, like the shoes might tell her where the rest of Mara went. Kerr interviewed coworkers at the clinic. Mara's boss told Dana quietly that Mara had been normal the day before. She'd complained about paperwork. She'd talked about a patient who made her laugh. Nothing dramatic. Dana called Mara's friends one by one. Some cried. Some sounded angry. A few said the same thing. They assumed Mara would be safe on a run because that's the kind of assumption you make until the day you can't. Kerr chased every lead he could. Hospitals, urgent care, motels, the bus station in the next town over. He checked cameras from stores near Maine. He asked gas stations for footage. Dana kept asking if they could pull phone records yet. Kerr kept saying they were working on it. The tips poured in once the news hit regional stations. Most were nonsense. Someone thought they saw Mara at a grocery store an hour away. Someone claimed a woman screamed near the reservoir and then stopped. Someone said Mara had been depressed and was probably in a ditch somewhere. That person got blocked from Dana's page. One tip stuck. A guy claimed he'd seen a woman like Mara getting into a white cargo van near the reservoir access road the morning she disappeared. A white van with no side windows. There are a lot of those. Still, the van became the thing people latched onto. Towns need a shape for their fear. Kerr asked around about vans. Contractors, landscapers, delivery drivers. He asked for lists. He asked for schedules. Dana didn't trust him to move fast enough, so she started asking too. She went into the hardware store with Mara's flyer and stared at every man who looked away too quickly. Russell, the hardware store guy, promised Dana he'd keep an eye out. Then Dana got an anonymous message through the missing person page. It said Mara was gone and told her to look at Birch Hill. Birch Hill is a patch of woods and abandoned property north of town. An old house with a collapsed roof, a barn that's mostly rot. Teenagers go there to drink. Adults tell themselves it's harmless. Dana forwarded the message to Kerr. Kerr said they'd check it the next day. Dana didn't wait. I should have stopped her. I didn't. I told myself she'd go with or without me, and if she went alone, something could happen. That's the excuse I still hear in my own voice. We drove out the next morning. Service dropped in and out. The road turned to gravel, then to a narrow lane through trees. Birch Hill looked familiar in a distant way, like a place you've seen in a dream. The clearing felt wrong, not haunted, just neglected. A place where people stopped caring. The abandoned house looked worse up close. The porch sagged. The air smelled like damp wood and old rot. Inside, everything was debris and dust. Broken glass, fallen plaster, leaves that had blown in through smashed windows. Dana moved like she was hunting for anything she could use to keep her hope alive. In the living room, I saw a strip of blue fabric tied around a broken chair leg. It was the color of Mara's running shirt. Could have been anyone's. Still, Dana latched onto it. She searched room after room and then found a trapdoor in the back, half buried under junk. She cleared it and pulled it open. A smell rose out of it that didn't belong in an old house. Damp earth mixed with something sour. Stairs went down. Dana started to descend. I grabbed her arm and pulled her back. We stood there shaking, both breathing too hard, and neither of us said what we were thinking. If Mara was down there, she wasn't just missing. Dana tried calling Kerr. No signal. Then I heard an engine close by. A white cargo van crept into the clearing and stopped near the trees. A man stepped out. Work pants, flannel shirt, gray hair. The kind of guy you'd see at any hardware store. He walked toward the house like we were the problem. Dana confronted him. He said it was private property and told us to leave. Dana demanded his name. He hesitated, then said Tom Keller. I knew the name. Odd jobs. Fixing fences. Gutter work. The guy you call when you don't want a big company. Dana asked about his van. He got colder. His eyes went flat. He told us again to leave. There's a moment in an argument when you realize you're not arguing anymore. You're just in the presence of someone who doesn't care if you live or die. I felt that, and it made my mouth go dry. I grabbed Dana's arm and pulled her toward my truck. She resisted for a moment, then came. We drove out fast. Once we hit a stretch with service, Dana reached Kerr and dumped the whole story in one breath. The house, the trapdoor, the smell, the fabric, the van, the man. Kerr's voice changed when she said Keller. He told us to stay where we were and not go back. They searched Birch Hill later that day. Keller was gone. The van was gone. The trapdoor was there. The fabric was still there. They found nothing that forced Kerr to act the way Dana wanted him to act. Dana kept saying, he showed up right when we found it. Kerr kept saying, that's not proof. The argument between them became a constant background noise. Dana's grief turning into rage. Kerr trying to keep it from spilling into a mistake. 2 days later, a man named Russell was found dead off Mill Road. Russell had been on the volunteer search that first weekend. His wife called the station because he didn't come home. She thought maybe he'd been drinking somewhere, or maybe he'd stayed out searching. Russell had talked about doing another sweep because he couldn't stop thinking about Mara. They found him in a ditch behind a line of pines. His hands were bound behind him with plastic ties. His throat had been cut so deep it nearly opened him to the spine. I didn't see the body, but I heard the details from people who shouldn't have been talking and couldn't stop. The first time I heard it, it didn't register as real. Then it did, and it made my skin crawl. Now it wasn't a missing person case. Someone in town was killing people who got involved. Kerr held a press conference. He stood outside the station with a serious face and said very little. He confirmed a homicide. He asked people not to search alone. It wasn't advice anymore. It was a warning. Kerr came to Mara's apartment and admitted they were focusing on Keller. They were trying to get a warrant to search his property. It took time. Every step took time. Dana kept saying, "You have a man with a white van showing up at an abandoned house right after we find a trapdoor that smells like death." Kerr kept saying, "I need something a judge will sign." When they finally served the warrant, Keller wasn't home. They searched his small house on the edge of town. They searched his shed. Dana sat in her car across the street, watching like she might explode. I got there after leaving work early and sat with her. We saw deputies come out carrying bags. We saw them confer in the driveway. We saw a county crime scene van arrive. Kerr finally approached and told Dana they found blood in the shed. Dana asked whose. Kerr said they didn't know. Dana demanded to see what they'd found. Kerr refused. He told her they'd also found a pile of women's items: a jacket, a bracelet, a phone charger, hair ties, a cheap pair of sunglasses. Dana said the bracelet was Mara's. Kerr said they were taking everything to be tested. Keller vanished. That night I got a text from an unknown number. "Stop." Then another. "You don't know what you're doing." I didn't reply. I showed Dana. She went pale. She said, "He saw us at Birch Hill." I said, "Seeing us doesn't give him my number." Dana said, "People's numbers aren't hard to find. Not anymore." For the first time, it felt personal in a way that didn't involve Mara. It felt like Keller had eyes on us. I started checking my locks twice. I started looking at white vans like they were loaded guns. My mom called and told me to stop getting involved. She said the police would handle it. I almost laughed at that. Not because she was stupid, because she was holding on to the old belief that systems work if you're patient. I wanted to hold on to it too. I couldn't. Dana stopped sleeping. She'd fall asleep sitting up and then wake with a jerk and start checking her phone. Mara's mom went back and forth between numbness and panic. She'd try to cook and then forget the stove was on. She'd stare at Mara's toothbrush in the bathroom like it was something holy. Kerr tried to keep Dana updated, but he was careful with his words. He didn't want to make promises. Dana didn't want careful words. I couldn't stand waiting anymore. I also couldn't stop thinking about that trapdoor. So I went back to Birch Hill alone. I didn't tell Dana. I brought a flashlight and a crowbar. I also brought my dad's old handgun, which I'd never fired. I hated having it. I hated needing it. I parked in the clearing and sat for a minute with the engine off. The woods were still. I heard distant insects and my own breathing. Inside the house, the air felt colder. The place smelled worse than before, like moisture had trapped something under the floor, and it was seeping up. The blue fabric was gone. That was enough to make my throat tighten. I opened the trapdoor. The smell came up stronger. I went down. The stairs led into a low tunnel packed with earth. I had to crouch. My flashlight beam shook because my hands wouldn't settle. The tunnel opened into a small reinforced room. There was a metal chair bolted to the ground with straps on the arms, stains on the seat and floor, a pile of belongings in one corner, and a cooler. I opened the lid and saw parts of a body inside, not enough to pretend it was something else. A hand swollen and pale, skin stretched tight, a forearm, pieces that didn't belong in a cooler. I backed away gagging, fighting the urge to vomit. The smell was sweet and rotten at the same time. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. I killed my flashlight and stood in the dark, listening. Light swept across the ceiling from above. Someone else had a flashlight. The trapdoor jerked open. Tom Keller looked down at me. He smiled like I'd just walked into his garage uninvited. "You shouldn't be here." My body moved before my brain caught up. I scrambled up the stairs. He hit me with a piece of wood hard enough to make my shoulder go numb. Pain flashed down my arm. I swung the crowbar and missed, almost hitting the wall. Keller didn't rush like a panicked person. He moved like a guy doing a job. When I pulled the gun and aimed it at him, he didn't panic. He looked irritated. "You don't want to do that," he said. I backed out onto the porch and ran for my truck. He chased, close enough that I could hear his breathing. I got the truck started just as he reached for the passenger handle and I hit the gas. He stumbled and fell away. In the mirror, I saw him stand and watch me leave. He didn't jump into the van. He just watched. That look was worse than rage. Rage is messy. Rage makes mistakes. His face said he'd already decided what happens next. I called 911 once I had service. I told them there was a murder site under the house at Birch Hill, and Keller was there. Deputies found me shaking in a parking lot, and Kerr arrived soon after. When I told him what I'd seen, his face went gray. They sealed Birch Hill before dawn. State police came. Forensics came. People in white suits. Bright lights that made the trees look harsh. The place I'd been in became a crime scene. Kerr told me later they found DNA from multiple people in that underground room. They found restraints, tools, bags, bleach. They found signs that someone had been held in the chair recently. Recently. That word stuck in my throat. Kerr came to the apartment later with a victim advocate and told Dana they'd found an underground room and evidence of multiple victims. Dana asked about Mara. Kerr said they found items belonging to her. He didn't say more than that. Dana asked if Mara was alive. Kerr didn't answer directly. That was an answer. Keller's face went on the news. His van was found abandoned near a trailhead in another county. There was blood inside, rope, zip ties, and a small camera hidden under the dash. Still no Keller. Then a deputy was killed behind the sheriff's station during an overnight shift. His name was Chris Nolan. He'd been on night duty. He stepped out back, behind the dumpsters, where people smoked even though they weren't supposed to. They found him there with his skull crushed. Multiple blows. The kind of violence that turns a man into something you can't unsee. Again, I didn't see the body. I didn't need to. The details leaked anyway. This changed the town. People stopped pretending this was far away. They started buying guns and talking about keeping watch. They stared at strangers in the grocery store like the stranger might be Keller in a different jacket. Kids stopped riding bikes alone. The reservoir lot emptied. Dana refused to leave Mara's apartment. She said if Keller was out there, she wasn't going to make it easy for him to erase Mara's life. Kerr told her to go stay with family. Dana refused. I stayed there with her some nights because neither of us trusted the quiet anymore. I slept in a chair near the living room, shoes on, phone charged. One afternoon, Dana got a call from a blocked number. She answered before I could stop her. Her face changed fast. She whispered Mara. For a moment, her whole body softened, like hope was an IV. Then her eyes widened. I grabbed the phone from her hand. All I heard at first was breathing, then Keller's voice. "You don't listen." I asked where Mara was. He laughed softly and told me I couldn't save her. He said, "You were in my house. You saw." Then he hung up. Dana slid down the wall and sobbed until she couldn't make sound. I called Kerr immediately. Kerr's voice went tight. He asked if we got a number. Blocked. He asked if Keller said anything about where he was. Nothing specific. Kerr sent a unit to sit outside the building after that. It didn't make me feel safe. It just made me feel like we were all waiting for something to happen. That night, Dana barely spoke. She held Mara's phone charger in her hands like it meant something. Near dawn, I heard a sound at the back door. Metal scraping, a quiet click. Someone was unlocking it. I got the gun. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold it steady. I moved into the kitchen and waited off to the side, out of view. The door opened and a man stepped in wearing a hoodie, carrying a pry bar. For a split second we looked at each other. Then he lunged. I fired. The noise in the small kitchen was brutal. It slammed into my ears and made my whole body flinch. He stumbled into the counter. I fired again. He fell hard and started gurgling, trying to breathe. Blood spread on the floor in a dark pool that looked too thick. Dana screamed from the living room. The deputy outside hit the front door at the same time, yelling. I dropped the gun when they told me to. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. They rolled the intruder over and pulled his hood down. Tom Keller. He looked up at me and tried to speak. Blood bubbled at his mouth. Then his eyes went empty. He died on Mara's kitchen floor. I thought I'd feel relief. I didn't. Because Keller being dead didn't tell us where Mara was. Kerr arrived soon after. He looked at Keller's body and then at me. He asked if I was hurt. I shook my head. He told an officer to get Dana out of the apartment. Dana went like she was sleepwalking. Kerr asked me to go over it again, slowly. I told him. He nodded once, then stared at the floor like he was rearranging the entire case in his head. They searched Keller's pockets and found a set of keys. One key matched a storage unit lock. Kerr asked if I wanted to come. I didn't want to, but I said yes anyway. The alternative was sitting in that apartment smelling gun smoke and blood. The storage facility was a row of metal doors under harsh lights. The manager opened the unit with shaking hands. I could tell he recognized the name now. Inside were plastic bins, a tarp, cleaning supplies, and a large cooler. Forensics opened it. Mara was inside, wrapped in plastic. Her face was visible enough that there was no arguing. Dark hair, freckles, the faint shape of her mouth. She looked like a person, and also like an object. and that contradiction made me feel like I might crack. They didn't make Dana identify her in person. They showed her a photo and kept her back from the rest. It still destroyed her. Mara's mom screamed over the phone when she was told. Dana put the phone on speaker because she couldn't hold it anymore, and I heard that sound fill the room. It's not something you forget. The town held a memorial at the clinic. People left flowers and notes and tried to act like grief was something you could organize. The clinic staff stood in a line with red eyes. Patients brought casseroles like food could fix anything. Dana stood by the door and stared at everyone who came in, as if she wanted to memorize the proof that Mara had mattered. The investigation kept going after Keller died. State police took over parts of it. The FBI showed up for a day because of overlapping missing persons cases in nearby counties. They talked to Kerr, took boxes of evidence, then left the town to deal with the rest. Birch Hill and Keller's yard turned up more remains. Some were buried shallow. Some were scattered, like animals had gotten to them. They found teeth. They found bones. They found clothing that had been cut off in strips. They matched Keller to several missing persons cases from nearby places. Women who disappeared on hikes. A man who never came home from a late shift. A teenager who'd been a runaway until she wasn't. Some families got an answer. Some didn't get enough. Dana moved back to the city with her mother after the funeral. We kept in touch for a while, and then the messages slowed. I don't blame her. I went back to work. I drove deliveries like before. I nodded at people like before. But the town felt different. I'd drive past the reservoir sometimes and feel my stomach tighten. People used the trail again. Slowly. New signs went up. Emergency call boxes. More patrols. It still looks like a nice place to run. That's the part I can't get over. After everything, Kerr told me they found a notebook in the underground room. It had names. Not victims' names. Other names. Addresses. Routines. Notes about when people were alone. Kerr said Keller had written things like runs alone and backdoor sticks, like he was planning a home repair. Mara's name was in it. So was Dana's. And mine. Keller didn't pick at random. He watched. He waited. He acted like a normal man with a job and a van until the moment he didn't. People ask me if I'm proud I stopped him. I'm not. I got lucky. That's all. If the gun had jammed, Dana would be dead. If I'd been a little slower, Keller would have made it out the back with her. And if we'd understood what that trapdoor meant the first day, maybe Mara would have come home. That's the thought I live with. There's another thought too, one I don't say out loud much. Kerr said the chair in the underground room showed fresh marks, signs of struggle that hadn't had time to fade. For a while I couldn't stop picturing Mara alive down there after we first visited Birch Hill, hearing us upstairs, and then losing us. I don't know if it's true. I also don't know how to stop my brain from trying to fill the empty space. Alder Creek is quiet again on the surface, but it's a different kind of quiet. It's the quiet of people who now know what can happen in the woods a few miles from town. Russell's wife sold her house and left. Deputy Nolan's parents moved away. Kerr retired not long after. He said he couldn't do it anymore. He looked older when I last saw him, like the case had taken years off his face. My mom still calls and asks if I'm locking my doors. I tell her yes. Sometimes at night I stand on my porch and listen to cars passing and dogs barking. Normal sounds. And sometimes when it's very still, I swear I can smell that damp, sour stink again. Not because it's in the air, because it got into my head and it never left. Dana came back once months later. She wanted to see the memorial at the clinic without an audience. We sat in my truck afterward, drinking coffee that had gone cold. She asked me if I thought Mara suffered. I told her I didn't know. Dana said, "You do." I didn't answer. There are things you can't put into words without breaking the person listening. People like to say evil looks obvious. In Alder Creek, it looked like a guy in work boots and a flannel shirt driving a white van. It looked like someone who would fix your fence if you paid him. It looked like ordinary. And that's what keeps me up. Not a monster. Not a curse. Just a man who had time and patience. And the nerve to smile at you while you stood in his way. For a while, he lived a few minutes from me. I try not to think about how many times I might have nodded at him in a store, how many times he might have looked at me and already decided. But sometimes I do. Then I lock the door again, even in daylight, because it's the only action left that still feels like it means something.